Hello everyone, Fortune here, coming to you from the back room on a nice warm sunny day. Actually the sun's behind the clouds right now, but it's been sunning in here, making it nice and bright. Here with my couple of assistants. This is little Jane. She likes her belly rub and likes to go for long walks anywhere. And this is Charlie, the puppy of the family. Charlie is at that age where she thinks all noises and voices are for her or to her. So it would not shock me if she got down for that chair at some point and came up to me thinking that I'm talking to her right now. But I wanted to come to you and talk about a topic that's definitely been on my heart and mind lately. For those of you who have been following the channel, you already know some of what I'm going to talk about, but just give a little background for those who may be new. I did the PCT last year. Thru-Hike, all except what I couldn't because of getting shut down with the wildfires that shut down a good portion of the trail last year. This year, starting in February, I started the Appalachian Trail. I was making really good progress and a good pace. I got about 1,550 miles in and had to get off because of an ankle and foot injury that unfortunately I tried to push through for a while and it just kept getting worse. If you also know from the PCT, I push through a lot of pain and injury unless I just can't because obviously the ankle and foot, you need that to walk, let alone climb and on rocks and stability, especially on slippery rocks and such. So I had to make the decision to end it for the year. And even if I would have let it heal up and go back to the trail, I had plenty of time to do that because of my early start. But the early start was in big part to the fact that me and my fiance are getting married in October, so that's at the forefront of our priorities, and I just didn't have the time to go back and do that this year. It literally took about 4 weeks for it to really get to a point where I wasn't in a great amount of pain and having mobility issues. It's about 98% good right now, more than 4 weeks afterwards. But at any rate, I am a seasoned thru-hiker, obviously. I've had a lot of miles under my belt, about 3,500 just in the last year. And I know quite a bit, but I know a lot less than I could know, than there is out there to know, I should say. So it doesn't matter if you've been hiking 30 or 40 years, there's always something to learn. And that's what this video is about. The 5 things I've learned this year, the 5 biggest things I've learned that I will do differently on my next thru-hike. Of the Appalachian Trail, or any thru-hike for that matter. So that's what I want to talk about here. Hopefully you find it informative, or just a little look into my life and what's coming up in the future. Next year I will finish the Appalachian Trail, at the very least. At some point I will be doing the Appalachian Trail again from beginning to end all at one time. That could be next year. That might be 2 or 3 years down the road. I don't know. All I know is I need to finish the Appalachian Trail. I need to finish that section of the PCT, and then I have to do the CDT to have that Triple Crown, which that's the first priority with the thru-hikes, is making sure I have all 3 completed, even if they had to be broken up for outside reasons beyond my control. So let's get into it. The 5 biggest things that I've learned this year that I will do differently on the next Appalachian Trail thru-hike, or any thru-hike for that matter. Let's get into it. Number 1. Eating. See, Charlie thought I was talking to her. She started wagging her tail. She said, eating? Let's do that. But, so what am I talking about exactly? Let's start with, this is kind of twofold. The first one is, I ended the PCT mid-ish October last year, and I started the AT mid-ish February. So it was about 4 months off, a little over 3.5 to 4 months, somewhere in that area. But I obviously still did a lot of training, jogging, quite a bit each week to keep the cardio going. I was doing a lot of hiking and walking up mountains and summiting during that time as well. But I did give my body ample rest afterwards, because that's the hardest part. And I did another video on that as far as that post-trail depression, anxiety, and just what your body goes through. It takes a long time without an injury to get your body kind of back to normal, where it's not in pain and cramping up and joints hurting, just from what you put it through for the last several months before then. But hiker hunger is insane with me, with all people that do a through hike, but especially with someone like me that has a very high metabolism anyway. The issue I run into is that I don't have a lot to lose, so when I lose it, I get really hungry because my body has nothing to eat. It doesn't have a lot of fat stored, and obviously I'm not being very scientific here. What you doing, Charlie? But basically what happens is, the body just has nothing to feed on, and it needs to keep putting energy in because you're burning so many calories, and just adding to that. So that's obviously just any through hike. The problem is I came off that through hike. I only had 4 months, and then I went on to another through hike. So when I started the AT, I still hadn't really got back to normal. I still had hiker hunger. So I literally started from day one of the AT with hiker hunger, while everyone else that's starting, it takes some time to get to that point. So my hiker hunger was always seen to be a little bit more. Even people that was out on the through hike that was around me and see me eat, it's like, wow, how in the world are you putting down 2 or 3 meals at one time, and 30 minutes later you're starving, put another 1,000 calories down. It's just kind of what happens to me. My problem last time was I came off of the PCT and I kept eating like that, trying to gain weight. 'Cause that's what I was trying to do, is gain the weight before I started the AT, so I'd have something to lose again, because I knew I would have to lose, because you're in a calorie deficit every day. So I ate, and one thing I really laxed on was eating the right vitamins and minerals that I needed for an ongoing digestive issue that I have, that I need that to not have the flare-ups that I have, and I did have a few of those on the AT. If you followed the journey, you know that. So one big thing is this time, during my downtime of healing the body, I'm going to eat a lot better. I've already gotten to that point where I was eating donuts, fat, chips, junk food, good food with junk food, just pounding the calories as much as I could. And I've already gotten to that point where I'm starting to regulate now, with my body is just starting to eat normal again, instead of just pounding 2 to 3 times what I would normally eat. So at this point, I'm trying to transition that into more vegetables, more vitamins, more certain kinds of vegetables that give me the vitamins that I need. And that's a personal thing. Everybody's going to need something different. Maybe you're deficient in certain things. I need a lot of vitamin D, a lot of vitamin B, a lot of magnesium, a lot of calcium because of the osteoporosis, different things that I need that will help build my body up and make it easier when I go out there. Step 2 of that is when I have town days. Again, I would go in and just pound the calories and fat, which didn't hurt me as far as getting bigger or anything like that, because my body would use that to store and build energy. The problem is I wasn't putting the vitamins in, because all I think about is steak, potatoes, French fries, cheeseburgers, pizza, nachos, donuts. Let's just pound as much food in as I can, and I wasn't using that time to also eat other things I couldn't have out there on the through hike with me, which would be like salads and fresh greens and fresh vegetables and fruits. And vitamins are great in a pill form, but they are nowhere near as good as they are if we eat them, because they stay in the body longer and they get absorbed into the body better. Again, I'm not scientific, so I'm not saying these things exactly the way a medical professional would say them, but this is what happens. And big thing I've learned is I need to offset the calories and have all those calories, but still also get the fiber and the vitamins and everything I need, especially on town days. That's when you kind of make up for the 3 and 4 days of eating everything you could on trail, and you're offsetting that with still getting those calories and increasing those calories, but also eating some good food with it. Because I found out the hard way, especially after being depleted from the PCT and not really getting my body back to where it should be good before starting the AT, that is something I'm definitely going to focus on this time, in between, during that healing time, and then also in my town days next time, is start taking more vitamin-rich food that is going to help my body act like the athlete that I feel like I am sometimes. Because sometimes the inwards don't really necessarily go with the strength that maybe I'm going on the outside. And that just helps you go longer, and the longevity and the stamina of your hike and your days. So that's step 1. Let's get on to step 2 now, or the second thing. Number 2. So a big one, and it's funny because I did a video last year after the PCT about different tips and suggestions for hikers over 40, which I'm one of those. of things I've learned. And then I didn't listen to my own video apparently, because it's a second step on these 5. I don't know why I keep saying steps. 5 things that I've learned that I'm going to do differently on my next through hike. One of them is stretching. Now, I hardly ever have leg issues. When I'm out there, my legs just feel like they could go on and on and on. If I have anything, it's back, ankles or feet or hips, it seems like. But every once in a while, the legs get sore, crampy. And usually that has to do with the last item that I was talking about, where basically, need more vitamins and eating better on town days and such. But the stretching is so huge because it's such a simple thing and goes such a long way in making you be able to go longer, have less pain, and feel better. The big things of stretching is the legs, obviously, the thighs, the calves, and, basically the stretches that help your knees out. The knees obviously really get hurt. Actually, all those joints I talked about, the ankles, the hips, the knees, those all kind of get tweaked by going downhill. So, being able to do that each night, every single night when I'm done, stretch. Whether I feel like it or not, whether I'm getting into camp late, whether I'm getting into camp early, stretch before I go to bed. So that way I'll sleep better. I won't have cramps in the middle of the night. Because if I'm going to get cramps in my legs, that's when I normally get them, is at night when I'm sleeping, when the body stops moving. So definitely that's a huge part. The other big part of that stretching was when I took the 4 days off, when my fiance Lane came to Pearisburg, Virginia. And that was the first time I got to see her, and she got to see me in 6 weeks. So that was a very special time. But it ended up being 4 zeros. And I was an idiot that I never really stretched during that time. So when I went out, I was actually hurting much worse than when I took the day off, the very first day off. I learned a big lesson then on stretching. I still didn't do it like it was the gospel, that's for sure. I should have definitely been doing it every single day, like I was getting paid for it, as Lane would say, because it's very important. It keeps the body from having that. It gives your body less chance of getting injured, more chance of staying healthy and strong. And it just helps the blood flow, in my understanding of what happens when you stretch out. And, especially at night when you're going to sleep, especially with someone like me that has a little less good circulation in their legs, definitely an important part to being able to stay strong and healthy. So that's one. Number 2 thing that I would change, that I am going to change on my next through hike, is I am going to stretch every day. Every time I take a break, every time I go to bed, every time I take a zero, keep stretching even if I'm not moving the legs that day. It's going to be very important to me being able to be strong and stronger even than what I was this time.
Number 3.
So this one is just a short, quick point, and that's talking about ticks. I knew ticks were a big deal in the East. I grew up in the East. I lived in the East most of my life. But going through the Appalachian Trail, I had no idea that the ticks were going to be quite as bad as they were. My first one I found embedded into my skin was as soon as I crossed into Pennsylvania. And that puppy was about half in, was not engorged. So I felt pretty safe, never got the rash, never had any symptoms. So I felt really safe that I did not get Lyme. However, after that, I was literally getting 10 to 20 ticks off of me every day. Luckily, I was catching most of them before they were engorged. But who knows which ones I might have missed. It was on my back. I mean, I got tick checks when I could, but I was rarely ever around any hikers or anyone else for 2, 3, 4 days at a time. So every once in a while when I'd stop, I'd say, hey buddy, could you look at my back, make sure there's nothing on there. But the one thing I would change completely next time on my next Appalachian Trail through hike is you can actually get antibiotics from your doctor to have on you. That way when you get a tick bite, you can take one of those antibiotics. You only have to take one. It's not the whole 10 days, whole 7 days. But it's doxycycline. I believe I'm saying that right. Doxycycline, DOXYCYCLINE. You could take that. I think it's within 24 to 48 hours of a tick bite, and that will reduce the chances greatly of it, even if there is Lyme in that tick, of you getting the Lyme. It will kill it, basically. Again, I'm not a medical professional or a scientist, so I'm not saying that in the scientific way, but I will definitely change that next time. It is one of those things, just like Excedrin and Advil or ibuprofen and my stomach meds, that I will take with me at all times just to make sure, that's there. Make that part of my first aid kit because you don't want to get bit by the wrong tick and get that tick engorged and then get into Lyme. Lyme can be very dangerous and serious later on, especially if it's not caught right away. Not everybody gets symptoms, not everybody gets the rashes, everything else. So you definitely want to make sure that you're prepared for that. And I was not prepared as much as I thought I would be for that, and I will definitely make sure I'm prepared for that next time.
Number 4.
So this one's a little different. I'm sure if everybody was asked, what do you think are going to be Fortune's top 5 things he would change on his next Thru-Hike? Very few, if any, would probably get this one. But this is such a huge thing, such a small thing, but such a huge thing. I talked about the stretching. I talked about how important it was to stretch and keep those muscles limber and flexible for all that you do. Sometimes you're climbing straight up, sometimes you're climbing straight out, sometimes you're just walking for 20, 30 miles a day, and your legs can stiffen up and they get crampy, and the hydration and everything else involved. Well, this one is equally as important, and I got away from it many times. I'll start by saying this. I got off the trail from an injury, from an ankle that started as an ankle sprain that led to fractured ligaments or bones on the left side around the ankle that wasn't even in the ankle per se, but on the side of the foot. But even beyond that, my feet were on fire and in pain so much for the 4 weeks after coming off the trail. And that was just from the simple beating that they take, walking mile after mile after mile, 3,500 miles or close to 3,500 miles in a year. That's a lot of miles. Some people don't even drive that much in a year. Some people don't drive that much in 2 years. Some people, drive quite a bit more than that. But, it's a lot of walking is my point. But one simple thing that I could have done, helps blood flow, helps relax the muscles, helps them heal better, is simply massaging your feet. Every night after stretching, that's what I should do as I go to bed, is massage my feet. They would be looser, more limber. They wouldn't be tightening up on me. They, wouldn't have that cramping problem near as much, and I got away from it. So simply put, number 4 is just massaging my feet every night, at lunch, taking the shoes off, at my breaks, whenever I take a break or lunch, take the shoes off for 5 minutes, massage the feet. And it makes a world of difference to go on. And unfortunately, it got to a point where I was only doing it when they hurt. And I shouldn't have been doing it. I should have been doing it every night, every break. Just rubbing them down for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes makes a world of difference. If you're going to be doing a Thru-Hike, I would definitely consider making that part of your routine every day. It helps tremendously. And I shouldn't have been lazy on that. Yeah, won't be next time.
Number 5.
So the last and final one is a little bittersweet. So I want to take some time to make sure I explain exactly what it is that I'm referring to. But I'm out here in the garage. This is where I store all the camping gear and backpacking gear, hiking gear, everything. Got all my ultras up here. Well, not all of them. Some hiking boots. Definitely have some more in some boxes. But that's all you'll get to see out here because the rest of it's kind of messy. So we won't be letting the world see that. But number 5, and let me give a little background on this. When I got into Pennsylvania, past the halfway point of the Appalachian Trail, I was way ahead of schedule. It was still winter up in the Whites. My fiance was going to be coming about the time I got to Connecticut, about the time of my birthday, and staying for a couple days, and we was going to get some more time together about 6 weeks or 7 weeks after we'd seen each other the first time. But then we started thinking, I started thinking, let me put it that way first, and I brought it up, and she was perfectly fine with it. but I didn't want that to sound like it was anybody's fault but mine. I wanted to be able to go home and see her, because for that same amount of money or less, I'd be able to fly back home, stay for a couple weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, and then go back on the trail. Perfect idea for a lot of reasons. It allowed me to eat home-cooked meals, gain some of that weight back, help get some of those vitamins in me, but to be able to see my baby, for several weeks instead of just a couple days. Why that was so important, let me explain. After the PCT and the time in between there and the AT is when we actually met. I've been married before and divorced, and I've been in relationships, blah, 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 in the meantime, and I could tell you straight up, I've never in my life came close to falling in love with someone like I have her. She is my heart, my soul, my destiny, and I don't say that lightly. I do not say that lightly at all, and I had all intentions of never really meeting anyone until after I was done with the Thru-Hikes, for several different reasons, but we met each other and we just fell in love so hard. We just knew it was right. We knew we were born for each other. And but I had already committed to doing the AT this year, and we knew we could get through. We're two strong individuals and very independent people without each other. Obviously, when you're with each other and you find your soulmate, your other half, obviously that independence is not as much there, with that, because you're one at that point. You're unified. So to make a long story short on that, it was really hard. We meet, we're in love, and then we have to be separated for all this time. So that's why it was going to be a great thing. We was going to get to spend that time together and everything else. Well, then I was heading back to start where I left off. And unfortunately, while I was home, I went on a hike. And on the easiest trail I think I've been on in over a year is where I sprained my ankle. Sprained it bad, and then rolled it 3 more times that same day. It was almost like destiny was beating me up, or the forest at home was beating me up. So what happened with that is I was a little worried that I wouldn't be able to go back to trail. Well, I couldn't walk that day, couldn't put any weight on it. It was pretty bad. Next day, all of a sudden I could put weight on it. The next day after that, it was about 80, 90%. 3 days later, I was good as gold. It still had a little bit of tenderness and everything, but it was good as gold. And my flight wasn't going to leave for almost a week, or less than a week, but about a week from the time of sprain. So everything was good. I went back to trail, did another 250 miles or so, and then boom, I retweaked it on some rocks, wedging it in between, turn it, twist and turn it like this on the wet rocks. It just retweaked it, and then it got worse and started, probably because of the weakness of it, it allowed other things to go wrong, which is kind of the case with injuries versus pain when you're on the trail. When you get injured to the point that you start walking differently, it starts screwing other things up. Could be your knee, could be your hip, could be other legs, back, whatever. And obviously the stress of it could cause other problems, migraines, stomach aches, stomach issues. So all in all, it just became this snowball going down a hill. So what I want to say with this, first off, I do not regret all of these 5 things. I do not regret that I did those things on this Thru-Hike at all, because I'm the type of person I never regret anything. Everything is such a huge part of learning and growing and learning what to do next time, how to be better at it, refining yourself. And that's why this is the 5 things I will do differently on the next one. I wonderfully enjoyed getting that time, almost a month, spending my birthday with my fiance and being home with the pups and everything else. 100% enjoyed it. Would not change it if I had to do it over 1,000 times. The reason that I'm bringing this up as number 5, though, is the next time I just want to get the trail done all at once and get home to her quicker, because the hardest part of that wasn't, the part that is, how do I say it? The part that I'm going to do differently isn't because I came home and stayed for a month. It was because I stayed home for a month and my body got used to it. And my mind and my heart and my love and everything got used to being here, and then I had to go away again. That actually was worse than leaving the first time. So obviously the next time won't be, fresh and new, but we will still be in love, and in love more than we are now. So it's still going to be very hard, obviously, and that's just a mental part that goes with it. But I think that it might have made it even worse going back after that long of a time home. So what I believe next time would be the best thing for me, and I think for her, but only she could talk for her, is seeing each other, those 2 or 3 weeks. Obviously, we're going to handle it a little differently because it won't already have been scheduled and set up before we even met. So next time she'll be able to come see me more often, get on the trail with me, and vice versa. I'll be able to come home wherever we may be, whatever is, the best way for where we are at that moment, on the trail, which trail, and so forth. But that's one thing I will definitely do differently next time, because what it did is almost got my mind out of it a little bit, and I was still on fire and pumped and still focused and everything else, but my body might have not have been quite as ready as it was, and so forth. I don't regret getting myself the sprain. I don't regret coming home. Everything was good coming home, getting to see my love, getting to eat home cooked food, just being able to relax and have some time to unwind. The hard part was after being home for a month and then going back and trying to do the rest of it. So I definitely don't want to do that next time. I want to stay focused from beginning to end, get from point A to point B and get it done, and then go home and then be with, at that time, my wife and my puppies and my family. And I hope that you all are taking that in the right way, because there's not one part of me that regrets what I did this time. But I think next time it will be even better to have short visits and then get done as quickly as possible and get home to my baby. So those are the 5 things that I would do differently the next time. Not that I would. I don't know why I said I would. That's the second time I've done that, I think, on this video. But those are the 5 things I will do differently next time that I've learned. And hopefully it's been informative for you. Hopefully it's something you could take on your day hikes, your section hikes, your through hikes in the future, or just to know a little bit more about Fortune and what he's learned along the way. I will be putting up a video soon about the gear that I finished with on the AT, and there's going to be a lot of updates on the Thru-Hiker magazine, new mountain summits that I'm doing. You get to see those videos, and of course the through hikes coming up, and the wonderful October 5th wedding of Fortune and Lane. So thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Remember, live life.